This is All 32 Picks and IPAs, your NFL and craft beer fancast with your hosts Adam Emmert, Brendan Schultz, and Gerrad Tim. Play along at picksandIPAs.com/join. Hooray football! Hooray beer!
This is All 32 Picks and IPAs. And kicking off this week, your winner, Brandon Schultz, tied with Gerrad Tim.
All right. Gentlemen, how's it hanging? How's it hanging?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
In the western part of the state?
In the western part of the state. And the thing is Gerrad, is that I had a good week with 150 points, and yet somehow am dead last out of the three of us. This can't happen again.
DFL.
Look, I told you.
Emmert.
I told you guys 4 or 5 weeks ago that my picks were going to get better and better and better. They have.
It's kind of an easy week last week.
I think moving to the east side of the state, Gerrad, has helped you. So through the miracle of modern technology, we are joining all of you today from three very distinct different towns in Montana. This will be interesting. I promise we'll get better at this as time passes, but this is our first go. Gerrad actually made the laptop work, so this is impressive, and we'll see what we can accomplish today. I just wanted to lower expectations for everybody for the show.
Way to lower expectations.
This is a trial run, but yeah, computer's going. We're all in 3 different towns doing this right now. Curious to see how this goes, but we will get better at it.
And we are all drinking the Memminger Gold from the Memminger Brauerei in Germany.
Wow, is that German for brewery?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that you spoke German.
Oh, yeah. I took 3 years of German in high school, dude.
Oh, okay.
That's how I know that it's
which was like 30 years ago.
Oh, okay. I wondered. All right. Well, that now one more reason for me to not trust you, I guess. All right, guys. Let's say we get into some picks here. Let's lock them in.
Let's do it.
It's time to lock in this week's picks.
All right, Thursday Night Football. Maybe an interesting matchup. Dallas Cowboys go on the road, Gerrad, to take on Sam Bradford and the Minnesota Vikings. It appears that God does indeed hate the Vikings because not only will he take their running back, their tackles, their quarterback, but he's taken their coach away as well. Emergency eye surgery for Mike Zimmer. Out.
Emergency eye surgery. Jeez.
Yeah, you never like to hear the words emergency and surgery in the same sentence. And you know, the Vikings have had a tough year, and the hits just keep coming for them. And unfortunately, this week, they have to play the most consistent team, I think, in the NFL as far as basically because of their offensive line. I think their offensive line gives them consistency across the board. They can just run the ball, run the clock, and continue to score points. This is a no-brainer for me. I'm going Cowboys on the road.
Well, it would be a no-brainer for me since I said I was going to pick the Cowboys from here on out, but I have to take a risk pick this week, and you guys... with me finishing on top and being in the lead among me and Gerrad, then between me and Gerrad, then I guess I get the last pick, and that means I am taking the Vikings because gentlemen, in terms of defensive stats for the Minnesota Vikings, they're still pretty good on defense, and in terms of they pretty much outmatch the Dallas defense in all cases. So I think this could be the first real test for against a defense for this Dallas offense. And, you know, Sam Bradford he's almost at 70% completion percentage on the year. So I think I'm going to have to go with the Vikings here. And
I can complete 70% of my passes if I checked it down every time too.
82% going with the Cowboys this week, 18% with the Vikings.
Interesting. Well, I'm surprised that that's the pick you went with for your risk pick, Brandon, because the Bills were on the board yet for you. The Jets were on the board yet for you. This is going to be a tough game for the Vikings. I really don't see a path to victory here for them. I mean, basically, when you're facing the daddy, as Dak Prescott has been dubbed by his owner, and yes, I'm just as confused as Dak Prescott as to what that means.
Wow.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but Jerry Jones has gone
confused.
creepy old man. He really has.
Yeah.
Look, the thing about the Cowboys is I watched them a little bit on Thanksgiving, and that defense, I've been saying it all year, is just not good. Kirk Cousins torched them for like 400 yards. I mean, he really did just tear them up. I wish I could say that Sam Bradford would be able to do the same thing here, but they just don't have enough offensively to exploit the Cowboys. Cowboys will hold on to the ball just long enough to keep Sam Bradford and company off the field. And even when they're on the field, they're not going to do Cowboys all day.
I do not believe in Bradford anymore.
No, anymore. Like that would make.
I can't even jokingly say that I do.
Yeah, that would make the assumption you ever once did. But I know one thing you believe in, Gerrad, and that's your Denver Broncos. Even coming off a loss this last week, a weird loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, a very dramatic game. They go on the road to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who you got?
Well, obviously, I'm going to pick the Broncos. That was a heartbreaking game, but I'm not going to kill Kubiak for that decision to kick the field goal. I liked it. You play to win the game. I enjoyed the heck out of that call, and I'm glad we did it. I just think he shanked it because he tried to kick it too hard. You could see in his body language. But in this game, the Jaguars can't really beat anybody. If they were playing a lesser team, that would be the toilet bowl. But we're coming off of a tough loss. I'm not actually sure if Trevor Siemian's going to play. He was in a walking boot. He's got a sprained foot. But even with Paxton Lynch, or if he even got hurt and we go with Austin Davis, we're going to win this game on the road because Jacksonville's horrible. And our defense actually played pretty well. I'm going Broncos.
This is almost the most lopsided call of the week in terms of user consensus. 97% going with the Broncos, only 3% picking Jaguars. Definitely an easy pick on this one, going with Denver, even though, bad decisions at the end cost them. Actually, them weren't bad decisions. It was actually a good decision to go for the field goal. Try for the win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you were thinking that was a bad decision, man, I don't know what games you were watching. I couldn't agree with you both more about kicking the field goal there.
I was just trying to razz Gerrad up.
It really did make sense. It really did make sense to me. And look, even if the Seaman doesn't play, I do feel like the Broncos defense are definitely make Blake Bortles have a couple picks. I mean, he's just a mistake-prone guy, especially when he gets in pressure-packed situations. This will be a close game. It won't be a high-scoring affair. I'm thinking like maybe 17-10, but I'm definitely going Broncos as well. All right, guys, we got the Detroit Lions, the NFC North leading Detroit Lions, Brandon, taking on the sub-500 Saints, which is kind of surprising. They've lost some heartbreakers, man. Who do you got? You got Lions taking down Drew Brees in the Dome?
Detroit has a lot of tough games in their schedule going forward. I think it's going to be a challenge for them to stay in the lead in this division. And this is one of those games. New Orleans is tough at home. They're favored by 6 in this game. Every time New Orleans has played at home this year, I've picked them, and I think they've only let me down once. I am continuing to go New Orleans, and 59% of users going with them, only 41% with the Lions.
The Saints just keep finding ways to lose games. Adam, you said they've lost a lot of heartbreaking games, but I can't really pick them knowing that they're going to find another way to lose a game, whether it's in the kicking game or defensively. Their defense just isn't strong. And Brandon, like you said, the Lions have a tough schedule kind of going forward, so they really need to win this game if they want to try and stay on top of that division. I'm going to go Lions on the road because I think at this point they're going to be playing a little bit harder. And now the Saints aren't out of that division, obviously, but I'm going Lions. I think they're playing a little bit better.
Interesting. I think the Saints are definitely playing for their playoff lives at this point. And basically, this just boils down to a simple factor to me. Matthew Stafford versus Drew Brees. I mean, that's basically what it is at the end of the day. And I know Stafford's had a pretty decent season, but man, I'm going to take Drew Brees in that matchup every day of the week. I don't think the Lions defense has enough to stop that offense. And this is going to be a shootout. It's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, or whoever makes the fewest mistakes as far as the quarterback position is concerned. I trust Drew Brees a little more in that situation. I'm going to take the Saints at home. Who dat?
I think the Lions defense might even be worse than the New Orleans defense.
Maybe.
I mean, in terms of some of the major stats, completion percentage, they're allowing almost 75% completion percentage. Third down conversions, 44% to New Orleans, 40%. And they allow opponents to score in the red zone 64% to New Orleans 55%. So interesting that it would be that much worse than New Orleans.
It's tough, man. I mean, that's the thing. I tried looking at these two defenses, and they're both just abysmal, like you were saying, Brandon. So, I mean, that's why I'm picking the quarterback, not necessarily the team. All right, guys, we got a matchup between two teams that are supposedly good but aren't good. We got the Houston Texans going on the road here, Brandon, to take on the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers goes into his magic tent on Monday night and comes out somehow in MVP form. I don't know what's in there. Maybe Olivia Munn's hiding in there and like gave him a BJ like in the middle of the game or something. I'm not sure. But who you got in this one?
The 6-5 Texans on the road in Green Bay against the 5-6 Packers. This to me, Aaron Rodgers seems to be on a roll now, and I think both teams are going to end up 500 after this matchup, and user consensus bears that out too. 80% going with the Packers. Texans a little bit of a enticing risk pick for me because I like to root Houston. I'll be rooting for him this game, but I don't like him to win against the Packers.
I will not be rooting for the Texans this game. They're fifth in rushing, which actually does bode well against the Packers because the Packers can't stop a single thing. But I can't see rooting for the Texans on the road. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Bill O'Brien's press conference after the game when they asked him if they were going to bench Brock. He just completely avoided it. And then they asked him again, and he got fairly pissed off. So I think he's kind of questioning what's going on at the quarterback position, but also, I don't have any faith in his play calling whatsoever. And Houston going on the road, I don't think they have a good enough team to beat the Packers on the road because at Lambeau, it still gets pretty loud. And after this game, the Texans and the Titans will be tied for first in that division. And I think the Titans are still the better team and who's going to win that division. So I got the Texans dropping this game.
Interesting. I do agree with you on the Titans, though, Gerrad. I do think they're the best team in that division. One thing that's interesting, Bill O'Brien, if he's going to point the finger at Brock Osweiler, he needs to remember there's 3 fingers still pointing right back at him because he's a terrible coach. I mean, that's really what it boils down to with Brock, I think. He's a guy with all the talent in the world, and basically he's been just left to flounder down there in a mediocre offensive scheme. I don't quite get it. Brandon, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers being on a roll. I think he's put together 2 games. I'm not ready to say that he's shaken off all of whatever demons have been haunting him all year.
Oh, he's shaking it off.
Oh, he's shaking it off?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I don't know why you can't see that, but maybe you're not paying attention.
Mainly only because once is a coincidence and twice is only a trend. Okay, like it's not a certainty. I'm not. The
trend is up.
The trend is up. Look, the Texans. This is a tough spot. I mean, it's Green Bay. Late in the year. I don't like. A struggling quarterback going in there, even if that defense for Green Bay is pathetic. Aaron Rodgers will hang just enough points. I got the Packers at home.
Do we know what the weather's going to be like in Lambeau?
Wisconsin.
No, nobody has a weather report for Lambeau.
Since when have we ever done weather reports for games on this show? Come on, Gerrad.
It's going to start to become a factor.
It is. That's something we need. We need a meteorologist,
1st, right?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to. We're gonna have to call Mark Haka. Yeah, something like that. We need our local meteorologist to start doing little weather updates for each and every one of these games.
I don't call Mark
sunny
Haka.
and 80 degrees, and Houston's not going to win this game.
Oh, I don't call Mark Haka anymore. I call Bob McGuire.
Oh, okay. Is that your Laurel meteorologist?
Billings.
Oh, well, there you go, folks. There's some Montana meteorologists for you. Riveting podcast. Well, that said, Brandon, let's talk about winners a little bit.
All right. Looking at the 117 users in the Picks and IPAs podcast, Lieutenant Nacho Cheese up on top with 1530, followed by Biggity Cool, Super Tecmo Rawls, and Imiran for 10, finishing out at 1500. Looking at the weekly winners for week 12. Let's see who we got. We got Kick Life in the Rawls up on top. Actually, I think we should have quite a few people finishing up on top in the league this week because a lot of people at 180. Kick Life in the Rawls. That's a damn offensive line. Rock Out with My Hawk Out. An Angry NW Yeti. And Checkers. I do like Angry Northwest Yeti, though. Any Bigfoot reference is good.
Yeah, that's solid. Now, one thing, it must have been a predictable week for that many people to have 180. I mean, geez.
Yeah, most people missed the Hawks game, obviously, and either I think the Chiefs, not too many people picked the Chiefs win, and if they did pick it, they lost one of the other ones.
If I got 160, it's an easy week.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
So basically what you're saying is the NFL graded on a curve this last week. Is that how that
pretty
went?
much.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the Packers-Eagles won. Not many people got the Packers win over the Eagles either.
Which is kind of surprising. It was everybody did so well considering how many risk picks there were. But I guess that goes to show you how lopsided those games were.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Well, let's talk about a game, guys, that shall not be lopsided. This one's fairly interesting to me. It's the Kansas City Chiefs on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Chiefs have kind of gotten hot here lately, Gerrad, and I mean, they're leading your Broncos in the AFC West, and the Falcons seem to kind of come back down to where they are who we thought they were at this point, don't you think?
Well, the Falcons did the same thing they did last year. They started out really hot. Everybody was afraid of them. And then that high-flying offense, like you said, just kind of came down to earth. I mean, and they're going up against a good defense. The Chiefs' defense is 8th in the NFL, which is not bad at all. And the Chiefs coming off of that win last week, I think they might be a little bit tired just because it was an overtime game. It was a divisional game. And now they have to travel a little ways, not too bad because they are located right smack dab in the middle of the country. But I'm going with the Chiefs anyways, just because I don't really believe in the Falcons. I mean, they haven't really done much since they started off incredibly hot, and their defense is ranked 29th. They can't even control the check down at this point in Alex Smith. So I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah,
basically the Falcons have been hit pretty hard with the injury bug lately. They lose Trufant, maybe their best player on defense. Mm-hmm. And that's just enough for Alex Smith to dink and dunk his way to a victory. And yeah, their defense is going to make life at least difficult for Matt Ryan and company. It's just going to be tough for Atlanta in this spot. And, the Chiefs are, like I said, on a roll, and they're making a strong case to be one of the more feared playoff teams in a way. I mean, they're a very balanced team. So I got the Chiefs, Brandon.
Well, the Chiefs, I mean, their hot streak is one game against beating the Broncos, barely. I mean, it took a bounced field goal kick off the upright that just happened to go through to avoid the tie at the end of the game.
He called bank, dude. He called
He
bank.
did not call the bank. The bank called him and said, hey, we never received your phone call.
There's one thing that worries me about this matchup for the Falcons, and that's they're allowing opponents inside the red zone 75% of the time to score touchdowns. And that, I mean, when they're already banged up, that's going to be tough. But I don't know if the Chiefs are going to get down in the red zone all that much. So I'm going with the home team here, going with the Falcons. 61%, so a slight edge over the 39% going with the Chiefs on this one. I just think the Atlanta offense will have just enough to get by that Chiefs defense. And we saw the Chiefs lose to a less superior NFC South team just 2 weeks ago at home in Arrowhead. So I don't expect them to go on the road and beat an NFC South team in the Falcons.
Wrong.
I'll take on both you guys on this one.
President-elect, just wrong.
Wrong.
All right, guys, here's a game that I don't think any of us have much interest in, mainly because I skipped it just a minute ago. LA Rams go on the road to take on the New England Patriots. Brandon, Tom Brady hobbled with a knee injury. Gronk still busted up from Earl Thomas. But this isn't close.
The reason why you skip this, Adam, is I don't know if you do the same thing that I do when we do the show, but I just go down the list of my picks, and this one was already highlighted for the Patriots, so I was already on to the next one, too, because user consensus on this one, 98% for New England, 2% with the Rams. I don't know if I've ever seen a team getting 2%. There's usually enough family members on a team or people that just decide to pick the spread, even though they don't have to. That's the only thing I can think of that is the case here.
I know exactly why they're only 2%, Brandon, is because Jeff Fisher has banned everybody from the LA Rams organization. Like any fan or anybody who's ever said anything negative about the LA Rams, they're banned now from the stadium. So that's why it's only 2%.
This is a little bit more confusing than it was before because Edelman's potentially out. He wasn't practicing. Gronk has, punctured lung still, like you said. Tom Brady might not play, but this Rams team is, when you look at who they were a couple years ago, when they were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender, what we all thought, because they were in the divisional mix with you guys, with those great defenses, it was you guys, the 49ers and the Rams. But now you look at them, they're only 14th in defense, but they're really not playing all that well. And they are the bottom of the barrel on offense. This is one of the most disappointing teams in the last few years that I see. I mean, as far as underachievers. And it's just disappointing all around for the Rams. Not for you guys, obviously. You're probably pretty happy about it. But I'm still going New England, even if they lose everybody.
Yeah, it's with the Rams. I don't know how you add Jared Goff in at quarterback and your defense just collapses and gives up 50 points. How does that work?
Yeah, I don't know, man. And Goff has actually played okay. I mean, three touchdowns to one pick. And people, I saw one tweet that said Jeff Fisher is either he's screwed either way. If Goff plays well, everybody's going to be like, you kept him out too long. And if he doesn't play well, then everybody's going to be like, you screwed up his development. So, I mean, that's kind of a tough place to be in. But we'll get more to Fisher. I've got some Fisher stuff to bring up at the end of the pod here.
He might be getting lucky that Goff's playing average because people can't say either way.
In perfect Rams form.
No doubt, man. All right, guys. Speaking of a couple average teams, these are the best of the average teams facing off, which makes this a difficult pick. The Miami Dolphins go on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Brandan, you know how much I hate the Dolphins, but I'm taking the Dolphins. Are you with me on this one?
Wow. Are your lips burning?
You got to explain this, dude. I'm baffled.
Well, I can't. I figured we'd circle back. So, all right. Well, I'm taking the Dolphins. They are on a hot streak. What, they've had like 6 in a row, something like that. Sue's been playing out of his mind again. Adam Gase has been the exact quarterback whisperer that we all thought he was. He's got Tannehill playing at not an elite level, but at a very good level, maybe peak Tannehill. And you couple that with a couple weapons on offense. You got Jay Ajayi running the ball a little bit. They've got offensive linemen that actually know how to play offensive line, which is a novelty to me as a Seahawks fan. They go up against a Baltimore team that is dead average and everything. I just think the Dolphins are a little hotter, and they're definitely a playoff team. I think they are now officially the best of the mediocre teams.
The Dolphins are best of the mediocre teams, huh? Well, this game to me, the Dolphins defense for me definitely the Dolphins on offense definitely have the edge over what the Ravens have been doing on offense. I still like the Ravens defense a little bit better, which leads me to believe that maybe this is going to come down to special teams. And if it's going special teams, I got to go with Ravens and their kicker. That dude, that guy just makes everything. I like the home team here, 59%. It's kind of a coin flip game. I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick the Ravens because they're going to need this to stay at the top of the division. They're just going to need it more. The Dolphins, yeah, they can maybe hang in there, but they have a lot of traffic ahead of them too to try and keep up with the teams out there in the AFC West. I don't think they're going to do it. I like Baltimore.
Adam, you had mentioned that this is a battle of the average teams. When you look at stats alone for Miami, 18th in offense, 16th in defense. That is middle of the pack as you can really get. But when you look at their rushing says they're 6th. They're 6th because of 2 games, essentially. I'm still not sold on their rushing attack, and 28th in passing. They're not getting a lot out of the passing game. And the Ravens are pretty stout against the run, and I think that bodes well for this matchup. And frankly, I need so badly for the Dolphins to lose so that we are in the wild card. So badly. So I am going with Justin Tucker in this game.
Yeah, you guys are both going to end up losing this pick because you both quoted the kicker as being the best player on the Baltimore Ravens. Whenever you're hanging your hat as your MVP player being your kicker, you got issues, especially when you're paying your quarterback $500,000 million.
I think you're overlooking something really important here. When the Dolphins have done enough to sway your fandom over to just enough to pick them in a game against 2 winning teams, that's when I know to pick against you, because after this week, you're going to be so pissed when the Dolphins lose because you picked them that I just know that's coming.
Dude, this is my 3rd week in a row picking the Dolphins. They haven't done me dirty for 2 straight weeks.
They're about to screw you hard.
That said,
it's about to happen.
Fuck the Dolphins. I hate them so much. Well, speaking of things I hate toilet bowls. And this is the toilet bowl of the year. This is it. There hasn't been another one that is this toilety. Gerrad, the 1-10 San Francisco 49ers take on the 2-9 Chicago Bears with Matt Barkley running the show there in Chicago. Electrifying.
This is the type of game that even leaves stains on the bottom of the toilet. You know, the little brown streaks that come along with big old greasy shit. This is how I feel about this game. Although Matt Barkley didn't play all that bad. Threw the ball with some accuracy, but I think this Bears defense is bad enough to where Colin Kaepernick's probably going to have a heyday against these guys. Surprisingly, I'm going with the 49ers in this game on the road.
Oh, man, I'm going 49ers, too. They were so close to tying it up with Miami late. And if Colin Kaepernick can put up that many points against the Miami defense, I have to think that even going on the road and doing it in Chicago is a possibility. It's just whether or not which one of these defenses is better. I tend to think it might be Chicago, but it's kind of close. So I'm just going based off of last week's performance. I like Kaepernick to go on the road and put up some points, get their second win, and really lock the Browns into that number one pick.
Wow, I can't believe I'm agreeing with both you guys on this one because I think Colin Kaepernick has a performance in him kind of like when Brett Favre and his dad died on Monday Night Football and he come back and he put up like a memorable performance. That's what Kaepernick is going to do in memory of Fidel Castro since he loved him so much. Cap's got a tribute game for the communist dictator. No, but seriously, Kaepernick has played well the last 2 weeks. And I've seen the 49ers play the Patriots competitively 2 weeks ago, and then the Dolphins competitively last week. The Bears are on their third string quarterback. And look, I'm over USC quarterbacks. Like, I've seen enough to last me 10 lifetimes. I'm going with the Niners on the road.
I would have never thought you could actually work Fidel Castro into this podcast. I'm impressed, man. I'm really impressed. I would have never thought to go on that angle of it.
Thanks, man. I'm looking at the big picture here, and I know that Colin is passionate about these things this year, so I figure like this will add fuel to his fire.
The interesting thing about this game, guys, the Bears actually favored in terms of user consensus 60%, and that might just be because of the extra win and that they're at home. But a 49ers sweep among us, and even the odds say Chicago by 1. So this is interesting game.
That's because there's a lot of capitalists that are voting on this game rather than communists.
That's true.
The difference.
Are all three of us communists for voting the 49ers? Because I can switch my
yes. Yes, we are.
You are definitely a pinko commie. Yeah, for sure. Call McCarthy. We need to start rounding these people up.
Oh, great.
All right, guys. Philadelphia Eagles on the road to take on the Bengals. This is my risk pick of the week. I can't believe the Bengals are in risk pick territory on this. The Eagles have struggled in their last 5 or 6 games, and they have the struggles on the road. On top of all of that, the Bengals are actually decent at home, even without A.J. Green. I mean, Andy Dalton will do just enough to win this game, just to give Cincinnati fans just enough to break their heart, to make them think like they might just get back into this, and then they'll crap all over them for the rest of the year. I like the Bengals at home, Gerrad.
I'm more of a believer, I think, in Carson Wentz at this point than I am in Andy Dalton. He does make some bad decisions sometimes, and he turns the ball over in key points. I don't think Carson Wentz has that gene in him. And when you can look at the stats or you can look at the eyeball test, Philadelphia's defense is slightly better than the Bengals, and they run the ball a lot better. I think as the season gets later and later, maybe the weather's not going to play a factor just yet, but I think that with Philadelphia's run game and with their defense, they're gonna be a lot better in this battle of two obviously average teams. But I don't have the Bengals. I'm going with Philadelphia.
I think what it comes down to for me is how much better the Eagles team is at keeping their opponent outside of the end zone, and that's what leads me to believe that the Cincinnati is going to be scoring field goals while Philly's going to be scoring touchdowns, even though it is on the road. It's not that far away from Philly. It's practically a home game that as close as they are to Pennsylvania. So maybe that's going to be the difference is travel time for these Eagles, because I know, Adam, how much travel plays into how you favor teams. So going Eagles, 78% of users agree, 22% know that without A.J. Green and a lot of the guys on the out for the Bengals that they're just not a good team.
Look, I mean, there's one solid fact in all of this, and that is Cincinnati is not Philadelphia. It is a road game. Like, they're different cities. So I think that's going to have an effect. I mean, you guys are right about the Philly defense being a fair amount better than the Cincinnati defense. I really do believe that. And look, I'm with you, Gerrad. I'm definitely more of a believer in Carson Wentz at this point than Andy Dalton. I think maybe we've seen the best of Andy Dalton at this point. I mean, last year when he had all those weapons around him and really was clicking until he got injured, you take away those weapons and he's just another guy. I do like Wentz a lot, and I think he's going to be a really great quarterback for them in the future. But unfortunately, a lot further in the future than this coming Sunday. This is a win for Cincinnati.
It is a surprising risk pick, though, because the odds Cincinnati's favored by 1 in this game. So interesting that it would be favored by Vegas, but yet users unanimous for the Eagles.
I'm going with the wise guys.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. This was an interesting game for me to pick, actually. And a lot of people seem to think that this was an easy pick, Brandon, kind of like you. Buffalo Bills go on the road fighting for their playoff lives to take on the Oakland Raiders, who are really playing some of the best ball in the league, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Carr bounces back with his injured finger, right? Because he said it was the worst pain that he had ever been in his life with the broken finger and on his throwing hand.
More pain than when he had the eyeliner tattooed on?
I feel like eyeliner tattooed would be pretty painful. But no, and I got a paper cut here on my pinky, and I know that hurts, so I can imagine a broken pinky finger.
I can tell it's affecting your performance today. You're right.
It is. It really, really is. But I think the reason why so many people are favoring the Raiders is because they now have shown that they can win a lot of these close games, and for Carolina to go up by 8 points, and they kind of screwed that game up in terms of trying to go for 2 in so many situations. But the Raiders able to come back and get the win. It shows they deserve to be a 9-2 team, and that's why I'm going with 90% of users going with Oakland, only 10% with the Bills. Adam,
interesting. I like T-Mobile in this game, man. I think this is a matchup that's favorable for the Bills in the sense that the Raiders defense is just really, it's terrible. It really is. It's not good. And basically, I think this Buffalo offense, which is very dynamic, getting Sammy Watkins back into the mix as well, they're going to score a bunch of points. Now, on the flip side, the Bills do have a decent defense, especially that front seven. But Derek Carr is going to get his in this game. There's no doubt about it. I think this is a shootout. This was honestly a coin flip game for me. And with that said, I'm just going to take the home team. But I think the Bills have a very legitimate shot in this one, Gerrad.
You know, this is actually a really hard game for me, too, because I think the Bills match up incredibly well against the Raiders. They can run the ball really well. And I think if you can keep the ball out of Derek Carr's hands, that's going to bode well for you. You know, and Derek Carr, sorry, if this finger incident is the most pain you've ever been in, you've had a pretty fortunate life. Congratulations.
Right.
You know, nice work. But the way the Bills can run the ball bodes well against keeping the ball out of Derek Carr's hands, I think. And I really did struggle with this game because the Raiders' rush defense is not all that good. So I am going to go with the Raiders just because I think they're consistently winning football games. And I think they're going to win this game. And the AFC West is no longer going to be up for grabs. I think they solidify their stance in the AFC West in this division this year, at least, with this game.
Much like I predicted at the beginning of the year.
I hate that so bad. It's such bullshit.
You know, the thing is so this was the worst pain he's ever felt in his life. But we all know that Derek Carr's a millennial, right? Like, I mean, isn't that the most millennial thing ever to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to our buddy Fred, you know, a couple weeks ago, and why are all these guys complaining about calls and why can't they hit and practice anymore? And Fred goes, because the league is full of a bunch of millennials now. That's why this is going on. Maybe true.
It's a true fact. The game is doomed, much like the country, by the millennial generation. And
I want to apologize for the millennial trash talk for all the millennials that are listening, but I'm not going to apologize.
Aren't you a millennial, Gerrad?
Shut up, Brandon. I don't associate. You know, like if there were two different bathrooms, millennials or not millennials, I'm going to go in the one that's not. I don't identify
I guess you're a
as
Montana millennial, so maybe that's the difference.
It's different. I'm 33.
I'm not piling on millennials either. You guys are jerks.
Yeah, I know. That's because we're not millennials.
And we don't care.
Yeah. Millennials are too nice. That's their problem.
Uh-huh.
You know, speaking of somebody who's not too nice, that's Bruce Arians. I still hate that man. And his team, it has the struggles. And they take on Captain Kirk at home, Brandon. You think the Cardinals can actually pull this one out and save their season? Or is this the game that we finally get to just put that last nail in the coffin for the Arizona Cardinals?
Put that last nail in the coffin. I'm going with Captain Kirk and 67%. Surprising that that's not a little bit higher considering Arizona struggles. 33% of users still going with him. And a big part of that still is because of that Arizona defense. You know, they could still play. Clearly the better defense between these two teams. But I like Captain Kirk, even getting it done on the road in Arizona. I just don't think that Arizona is going to be able to put enough points up on the board to they're going to lose to Captain Kirk. Yeah, they aren't going to be able to put up enough points to win. That's what I was looking for, man. Okay. This pinky finger, man.
That paper cut's really got you rattled, man.
It does. This is painful.
Somebody call Brandon's wife. He's hurting. He needs some help. It's gone to his head. Oh man. Well, Brandon, I tend to agree with you a little bit when it comes to the Cardinals because that offense is really struggling right now, and it's because Carson Palmer, he's been figured out, like that second rebirth of Carson Palmer under Bruce Arians, and he's even admitted it, that about halfway through the season, I think the Cardinals realized everybody figured out that down the field passing game of theirs, and their offensive line has actually regressed a little bit, and you get a little bit of pressure on Palmer, and he's going to make a critical mistake. And then you look on the flip side with Dork Chop Cousins, and I think I'm going away from Captain Kirk because that's too cool of a nickname for Kirk Cousins because he is a dork chop, man. He's like, he sings show tunes in the locker room. Like, you know, he has high five parties on the sidelines. That's a real thing. He had a high five party on the sidelines. This guy, he's a dork chop supreme. But with that said,
that's what makes me like him.
Yeah, he's a man after my own heart in some of those ways. And I like them on the road in this game. Washington's a good team, and I really felt like they gave Dallas a very strong test on Thanksgiving, even in the loss, and Dallas being one of the better teams in the league. I think Washington's going to be one of those teams you got to look out for a little bit in the playoffs. This is going to be just a tune-up game for them along the way, and I can't wait to bury Bruce Arians, Gerrad.
Yeah, I think Arizona's on the outside looking in, especially as far as the playoff goes. I mean, they're not even going to be close. And if you look at this matchup as a battle between the quarterbacks, I'm going with Captain Kirk. Still show tunes or not show tunes. Show tunes were cool at one point, weren't they?
Yeah, like 1920.
Yeah,
But when you look at the top three rushers for this Washington team, Matt Jones, Rob Kelly, Chris Thompson, all averaging 4.6, 4.7, 4.7 yards per carry. That's pretty consistent. I mean, you have three guys averaging almost 5 yards a carry. That's not bad. I believe in Captain Kirk, and especially his accuracy on the deep ball with Jordan Reed, Jamison Crowder. I'm going with Washington.
Yeah, both these teams throwing the ball over 60% of the time. Arizona needs to fix that. If they could actually decide to hand the ball off to David Johnson, they might actually win more of these games because it's not even close when it comes to completion percentage. Washington completing almost 70% of their passes, Arizona less than 60%. Carson Palmer is not the better quarterback in this matchup.
It's interesting, Brandon, that you bring up the run game for the Cardinals because I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like if they had handed the ball off more to David Johnson this year, they're 6-4-1 instead of 4-6-1.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I was the longest holdout when it came to David Johnson. Okay, he's very good. He's very good. Not great, but he's very good.
Next up, this week's beer review.
Should we talk beer, gentlemen?
Let's talk. I already finished my beer.
Yeah, well, I understand. We all did, but we can still talk about it. Like, I remember things about the beer.
Right. And this week we are drinking the Memminger Gold Marzen, and it's a 5.1% alcohol by volume. The thing that stood out to me, guys, was there wasn't a ton of carbonation in this beer. It was almost like a nitro. Very smooth.
It was really smooth. I liked how light and smooth it was. It wasn't very carbonated, and it had kind of a hint of sweetness, which I don't typically like, but it actually worked pretty well in this beer.
It was kind of caramely, and sweet. That was something that I got out of it. To me, it was a very German beer. I mean, like you guys said, not super carbonated, but kind of thick. I thought it was kind of it was definitely thicker than the Pilsner that I drank right before it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't the thing about it to me. It wasn't very the flavor definitely wasn't overpowering, but it really didn't have a distinct flavor either. So in that way, it was kind of boring. But it went pretty fast.
I enjoyed it. I liked it. When I opened up this box of German beers, I had forgot that you said they're all tallies.
Yeah.
And so I opened it up and I was just so excited. Like it was actually Christmas.
So for the listeners, what we did is we each got ourselves one of the packs at Costco. That's it's advent calendar, but it's with beer, which is awesome.
It is awesome, and the hardest thing is not opening one a day. That's the hardest thing.
And unfortunately, none of us even made it to December, which is when you're supposed to start it.
Right. Well, Oh
well.
Oh well.
I may have sampled the first 4 before we got to the one that we reviewed today. I'm just saying.
May have or did.
Well, both you guys abandoned me here in Missoula, so you can't come over and check.
That Doppelbock was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
I'm pro advent calendar rule breaking. I mean, we don't have to follow rules here.
Okay, perfect. All right, I like it. All right, guys, let's move on here to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the San Diego Superchargers. Gerrad, Bucs 6-5, coming off a big win against the Seahawks and a win previously against the Chiefs, and the Chargers are still the Chargers.
Yeah, watching that game against the Seahawks, I definitely don't believe that Tampa Bay is a better team than the Seahawks. However, they were able to capitalize on a team that Seahawks had to lose that game. I mean, it was a long ways. You guys had some big games before. That was kind of an easy pick, I suppose. That was just a game that anybody in the Seahawks position was going to lose. But when you look at this game now, I think the San Diego Chargers are completely out of the playoff race. So I think there's part of it that goes into an organization at this point in the year where you don't really want to win too many more games because you want a higher draft pick. And the Buccaneers, with a win this weekend and a Falcons loss, they're tied for first place in the NFC South. So I think the Bucs, they're actually playing pretty well. They're kind of on a hot streak. I'm going with the Bucs. They have a lot more to play for, and I think San Diego's going to sort of play to lose without trying to play to lose. So I'm going Falcons in this game. Not Falcons, sorry, Bucs.
Well, Gerrad, I think that the idea that the Chargers are playing not to lose or playing to lose while not playing to lose somehow, I don't know. I don't follow your logic on this one. Look, Phillip Rivers is too proud of a player to just go out there and stink it up. And I think the Chargers are a little bit better team than Tampa all the way around. Now, I understand they beat the Seahawks last week, but like you said, that was kind of difficult circumstances for the Seahawks going into that game. I saw Jameis Winston make a lot of mistakes in that game that just weren't capitalized on, and eventually teams will start to capitalize on that again. And Tampa is one of those young up-and-coming teams. I think this is going to be a team that the NFC will have to contend with for years coming in the future here. But with that said, this is the type of team that this is the first year they're kind of competing for the playoffs. So they have a couple big wins, and then they break your heart as a fan by losing one of these games that they ought to win like this. And I kind of see the Chargers winning this game, trying to fight for that last bit of fandom left in San Diego to keep their team there. I like Phillip Rivers at home.
Yeah, coin flip game and user consensus on this one, 54% for the Chargers to 46% with the Bucs. I just tend to think that it's the Bucs are riding high after 3 wins, but now having to go back across the country on the road to the Chargers. I just think that this is a letdown game for them, and the Chargers playing well despite their 5-6 record. I like the Chargers in this game to edge it out. I think it's going to be close, though.
Who shows up at this stadium? Because Buccaneers fans don't travel. Chargers fans don't show up. Who's going to be there?
Probably 49ers fans, because they'll jump they'll jump off their bandwagon anytime, any chance they can get. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Chargers best team in California right now outside of Oakland. So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think there will be more Steelers fans at this game than there will be anything else.
That could be. Yeah, maybe they give away tickets to this game. This will be blacked out, right? It's not going to be a sellout.
Without a doubt.
All right, guys.
Save our bolts. They're doing so great.
Gerrad Brandan hates the phrase "save our bolts." He thinks that it's lame.
It is because they're ready to bolt.
That was kind of corny.
That was a good dad joke. He's practicing. He's got one in the oven. He's got to start practicing these dad jokes. Maybe this next game is a dad joke because these are two teams that I just don't believe in yet somehow have winning records. And I was dead wrong about the Steelers starting out this year. They're not good. Like, they are so inconsistent. Taking on the Giants in Pittsburgh. The Giants, a team that, good Lord, like, their record is way better than they are, Gerrad.
Their record is better than they are, but when you look at these two football teams, I think they're a lot more consistent. The problem with the Giants is they can't run the ball. They're almost dead last in the league in running the ball, but their defense with all these guys that they paid, I think they have underachieved quite a bit, but they're still not playing all that bad. And I just don't believe in the Steelers enough to pick them. And so for that reason, I'm going with the Giants on the road.
Wow, this is a coin flip game for me, and it's surprising to see the Steelers favored by 6 points in this game.
Wow.
I know. That just seems like a coin flip game, which makes me lean Steelers on this one. 64% of users going Steelers, only 36% with the Giants, despite the difference, the 2-game difference in their records. More people liking the Steelers. I like Pittsburgh too, but I think two very similar teams, both offensively and defensively. I mean, in terms of how much they pass, how much they rush, and how many points they give up, very similar teams.
They are similar teams. I think the Giants have a little better pass rush. And actually, I like their secondary a little better than I like the Steelers secondary as well. But
yeah, they do have the better defense.
They do. But that offense is just a problem for me. When you basically work your whole offense around the guys on the perimeter, meaning, Odell Beckham and Cruz and Shepard, that's just something that it isn't sustainable when you get into these cold weather games. And like Gerrad's talked about, this is something that is going to start to rear its head a little bit. But when it comes down to the Steelers, man, I don't know who the Steelers are any given week. I have no clue. Is it going to be Big Ben lighting it up and targeting Antonio Brown 10 times? Or are they going to hand it to Le'Veon Bell and play conservative all game? I don't know. And their defense is just not that great. But I'm with you, Brandon, on this being a coin flip. I mean, they're kind of mirror images in that way. They're both very reliant on their quarterbacks. And I guess if that's the case in a regular season game, I'm taking Big Ben. I'm taking him at home just because they're the home team. It's kind of like the Raiders-Bills game for me. All right, guys, on to the Sunday night game. The Carolina Panthers, Brandon, take on our beloved Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure the user consensus is heavily in favor of the Seahawks on this one, but as we discussed on the Seahawkers podcast, I feel like this is a more difficult matchup than people maybe think.
Yeah, I think it is a difficult matchup for the Hawks, and obviously Panthers have won their last 2 matchups, but on defense, the Panthers have taken a hit with Kuechly out and with their corner leaving in the offseason to go to the Redskins. I like the Seahawks in this game. You mentioned user consensus, 90% to the Panthers 10. So, but I feel like there should be a few more people going Panthers. I think this is probably why Gerrad's going with this one for his risk pick.
I am going with this one for my risk pick, and I'll tell you why. You guys can't beat the Panthers. Didn't beat them all last year. Not going to beat them this year. But I mean, when you look at this,
expert,
I know, right? Right. You can't beat them. You can't do it. Cam Newton owns Russell Wilson.
Exact same team as last year too. The exact same. They lost 2 games last year. But
having Kuechly out does really hurt because the Panthers are ranked 2nd in defense against the rush, but you guys don't try to run the ball anyways. So you're going to have to beat them through the pass, and Carolina's pass defense is not good. They're just not good anymore. I do think that the Seahawks may win this game, but they're not going to. I got Carolina all the way, baby.
You needed a risk pick. You wanted to be a jerk.
Well, the thing that scares me as a Hawks fan about this game the most is just the battle in the trenches. And I know we've all talked about the offensive line ad nauseum, but basically that Panthers defensive line is a solid unit. And we saw the Seahawks offensive line struggle mightily with a mediocre unit last week, but then play decent against a good unit in Philadelphia the week prior. I don't know which offensive line is going to show up. I hope having Justin Britt back is a major difference maker for us on the offensive front. Basically, if the Seattle offensive line can play mediocre football, this is a 2-score win for the Seahawks. If they look like they did against Tampa, this could be a long, long game and could come down to just, a random turnover or a kicker's duel. I don't feel good about it, but of course I'm taking the Hawks at home because that secondary can't be exploited if Russell Wilson never has time to exploit it.
Well, one thing about this game is I think obviously the Seahawks are the better football team, but when you look at rivalries and how much harder teams play in rivalry games, this to me has essentially become a divisional game between you guys and Carolina Panthers, dating back to 3 years ago when there was that 13-12 win you guys had. I mean, this is just a hard fought football game, no matter where you play or no matter what the teams are like. This is essentially a divisional game, so it's just going to be a close one.
No, you're right, Gerrad. It is like a divisional matchup with the number of times these two teams have faced off over the past few years, because it always seems to be once in the regular season and then once in the playoffs. And that's just how it's been.
Well, I hope we beat the Panthers on Sunday night. I think we will. And then I hope to never have to see them again for at least 5 years. I'm done with the Panthers. I'm just tired of their ugly uniforms and their gross colors. And
you're probably tired of losing to them.
I'm tired of Cam Newton. Wait, look, man. So they beat us twice last year, but Russell Wilson owned Cam Newton the 2 years prior to that. So I mean, take your pick.
I kind of just look more at the recent stuff, I guess.
I guess I look at the overall history, in a complete, comprehensive view of things, rather than
you
just
look at what you want.
Data.
I'll look at what I want.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
all
Panthers.
the facts. I like to use all the facts.
I like to use the most recent one. Go Cam. This is the only time I'll ever cheer for that guy.
Well, if you're looking at recent facts, Richard Sherman points out that Carolina's getting karma for Cam grabbing the 12th man flag last year in his trip around the stadium. So karma
Richard
clearly
Sherman points out a lot of things
against the Panthers side.
Yeah, Richard got
Sherman
a long memory,
points out too many things. Who cares what he has to say anymore?
Well, he's a Stanford-educated man. He's got lots on his mind. What can I say?
Yeah.
All right, a game that is not on my mind and probably one I will not watch. Indianapolis Colts on Monday night go on the road to take on the New York Jets. Maybe is this it for Todd Bowles, Gerrad? I mean, this year, or does he get another chance?
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't really have a lot to work with on this team. He still does have a decent defense, but really hasn't done a lot with it, to be honest with you. I mean, they're 21st in defense, and that's supposed to be their strong point. I'm not going to watch this game, but I got the Colts in it because it's a boring Monday night game, and it's a bummer that it's on Monday night.
Yeah, it is a bummer. You hate to see two losing teams in a primetime matchup, but I think I'm going Colts on. It's interesting. Clearly the better offense is with Indy, but the Jets still have the superior defense over the Colts, but it's not as big of a difference as it was in past years with the Jets defense. You know what? I wonder about Todd Bowles too. I think you could be right, Adam. This could be his last year. I think maybe he'll be coaching the Rams next year.
Oh, we'll get to that after we talk about this game.
All right. Colts 75% user consensus, Jets 25%. So technically, Jets in that risk pick territory at home. This one was tempting for me, but I do think the Colts are going to win this matchup.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you. Andrew Luck has actually played fairly well the last few weeks. And as far as the defenses are concerned, when you look at that matchup, I'm not sure that the Jets defense is all that better than the Colts defense. I know they have names. There's a lot of talent there, but none of them play with any sort of passion for Todd Bowles. I mean, I don't know if it felt like they gave up all the way back when they played Arizona, 4 or 5 weeks ago. I think this team is completely given up. And I read an article this last week on that was written by an ex-player that played under the last year that Spurrier coached the Redskins, and talking about how soul-sucking it is to play on a bad team, and just how everybody just kind of gives up in the end. Even though they're trying, they still just have kind of given up, and everything just kind of goes against you because nobody really believes. I kind of feel like that's where they're at right now. So I like the Colts in this game.
News and interesting topics from around the NFL.
So one other thing as we get into topics here at the end of the show, since we're talking about the Jets. One of them is I saw a report that a lot of people believe that Darrelle Revis just gave up on the season and basically was just keep getting them checks this year. As a Jets fan, how pissed are you or Belichick for like letting him go right when he was about to fall off a cliff?
Well, Belichick knows what he's doing. And I mean, it's obvious. And I know we're going to talk more Jeff Fisher. The difference between these two coaches couldn't be any different. They've been coaching about the same amount of time, 22 years. Belichick, 232 wins, 115 losses. Fisher, 173 wins, 163 losses. If Fisher coaches another year, man, he's going to be in the deficit. And to coach that long, that's kind of impressive, I guess.
But Jeff Fisher coaches the Rams, not the Jets, right?
Right. I'm pointing it out because I know we're going to talk Fisher next.
Oh,
but yeah, I would be pissed as a Jets fan because, well, didn't you know? How did you not know that Revis was on the downhill side? And to give him that big of a contract, of course he's going to go to New York.
Well, my issue with this is I don't think Darrelle Revis is the type of player to just give up. You know, I don't think he just cashed it in and was like, screw it. He knew he wasn't any good. He got a big paycheck. I think he's still playing as hard as he can. I don't think he just gave up is kind of my issue with this thing. And yeah, I know a report said, but come on.
Yeah, I don't think he gave up. But
it was just a bad signing. I don't think he gave up. It's just a bad signing.
I think maybe his body gave up. You know what I mean? Like, you just get to a certain age and you play on the perimeter. You just can't keep up with guys anymore. And he was never the most physically gifted guy. He was just really a tactician at his position. And I think it's just kind of caught up to him. And I don't blame him whatsoever, man. Talk about the king of keep getting them checks.
Yeah.
That's Darrelle Revis, man.
He won. Yep. He won.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So let's get to Fisher then, Brandon.
I don't know if you can tell, but I've been wanting to talk about this.
So we speculated on the Seahawks podcast about Jeff Fisher and this maybe being his last year because I don't even know if he reaches his 7-9 benchmark. But Gerrad, I heard just yesterday their VP of operations or something like that, Demoff, that basically you can't judge a coach by his record. There's so much more that goes into it. Are you ready to give Jeff Fisher a pass on his record this year?
I'm not because I think the Rams need a change anyways. And if they were still in St. Louis, I think Jeff Fisher would have been gone already. Or, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it was St. Louis who liked him. But I think when they moved the organization to Los Angeles, I think they had different goals in mind anyways. I think they just wanted Fisher as their coach this first year to get him by because there's some consistency there. But I think he was on his way out after this year anyways. I don't think he's going to be there next year. I think this was Los Angeles' whole goal was to get him out of there, but to bring him in just for a smooth transition.
Yeah, I don't think you have to judge Fisher solely by his record. I mean, I'm sure he's not as much of a loser as his record indicates. Like, he seems like a nice guy. I'm not going to judge him solely by his record.
I've ever heard you say about anything Rams.
Yeah, he's got a solid mustache. There's no doubt. But the one thing that I wonder, like, I don't think he's going to get fired next year because there's only one explanation for that as far as the Rams are concerned. He has some sort of blackmail on either Demoff or Stan Kroenke. Does he have nude pictures of Stan Kroenke's wife? Like, what is it, guys? I mean, it's got to be blackmail. That is the only way you keep a coach around that can't seem to crack 8-8. He's had 2 winning seasons in like the last forever, and that was back with the Titans in 06 and 07. I mean,
but what else were they going to do? What coach would have wanted to go to St. Louis in that dome in a team that's potentially going to move? What other coach were they going to get that's better than Jeff Fisher? You know, Josh McDaniels wasn't ever wanting to go there. You know, Adam Gase wasn't going to want to go there because they didn't have a quarterback. Places want to go somewhere with a quarterback. Now they have a first-round pick. I think maybe a Josh McDaniels would want to go there.
It's a possibility. Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon.
It is a possibility. No, that's all I was going to say.
Well, look, the idea of what coach is going to want to go there, there's a ton of young coaches that are looking for their first head coaching gig. And you could catch lightning in a bottle with one of these guys. I mean, at least give it a try. You know, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Jeff Fisher gets you 7-9. That's what he gets you. Or, like this year, even worse. It gives you a regression in Todd Gurley, gives you a regression in offense, gives you a regression on that defense. Look, man, I don't understand why this organization is so dedicated to Jeff Fisher. Man, if I were a Rams fan, I'd be so ready for a change. And not just a change of cities, a change of coaches.
Well, they have the ability to get a change of coach now, because now that they're in LA, I think Gerrad hit it on the head. Now they're going to have coaches that want to come there, good coaches. So it could be a destination now, as opposed to maybe not so much.
And let's not kill Fisher too much for this season. I know, like a lot of people, it's hard to move. Moving sucks. It's stressful. Sometimes you're not winning while you're moving.
You got a little
Sometimes
empathy.
it feels like you're just losing. So that's kind of a little bit of slack.
It sounds like recent experience has your heart a little more open to Jeff Fisher there, Gerrad. That's for sure.
I feel a little bit of his pain.
Worst pain of your life, like a broken pinky finger?
Well, it's not like a paper cut, no, but
bad.
I mean, it hurts.
Okay. Just have to check the gauge.
All right, guys. Any other topics you wanted to cover at all?
Oh, this was a good week.
Yeah, no, I think we hit most of them while we were talking about the games.
Well, very good. Gerrad, congratulations on your move. I hope you guys are settling in.
Thanks, man.
And
it's pretty nice.
I think we did okay. You know, managing from 3 different cities this week. I think we
for
can
the first
continue.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be a little more prepared next time too. Everything will be set up. We'll be ready to go. It'll go a little smoother.
We can only hope.
Maybe. I guess
that's a
it
nice
depends on
thought.
if Brandon's
It's a nice
finger
thought,
heals, I
but
guess.
Brandon and I struggle with technology every week somehow.
So just be
every week.
prepared. Yeah.
It's part of it. But with that, I think there's only 2 things left to say, and that is hooray football
Hooray, football.
Great football.
and hooray beer.
Hooray beer.
Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/picksandIPAs.